1. Okay, and hello. Welcome, guys. Thank you for tuning into this live stream. Good evening, or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are watching from. My name's Tom Griffin. I'm the Assistant Product Specialist here at NUGEN Audio. This is our, I believe, the 4th edition of the live stream we've done. Basically something we've started over the summer this year. The format is basically a little bit of a chat about what's happening here at NUGEN, and then a chat about what's happening in the wider audio world, and then followed by a deeper look at one of our blogs or videos from the learning section of our website. Hopefully you guys can see me as well. Apologies for the poor lighting in here, but that's you don't want to see my face too much anyway, do you? So yeah, like I said, thank you for tuning in. I just want to do a little bit of chat about what's been happening in NUGEN over the last few weeks. Some of you may have seen last week or even watched yourselves. We did a live webinar over Zoom last Thursday. Basically, the whole premise of the webinar was to introduce our new product, or our new sister product of Paragon, which is now Paragon St, which is our, I believe, the biggest product release we've done here at NUGEN since since the original Paragon that we released last year in October. So Paragon St is our latest release, and as you can, if you've got NUGEN plugins previously, you may recognize from the name that this is now the sort of stereo version of Paragon. Slightly more of an emphasis on music production aimed at MI users. So if I just pull up for you guys, I'm just going to show you the interface. All being well. Oh, sorry about the delay. Second. So, as you guys can see here, I'll just enlarge it a little bit for you just to make it a bit clearer. So this is the Paragon St main GUI. And basically what we've done, we've added a few new features in that you may have noticed a couple differences from Paragon, the surround version, which it's kind of now been known as. Pardon me. I'll get rid of that. So as you can see, we do have a few new features. The first one, if you guys can see my mouse, is the stereo width control, which basically allows you to control the stereo width of the reverb using linear width technology. We've also added in modulation, sort of like a highly requested feature for the reverb, which, as it says on the tin, adds modulation to Paragon. You can affect the depth and the mix of the modulation. And as well, something that we've added in for both the modulation control and the pre-delay control is a tempo lock. So instead of using like milliseconds, it's now using related to the track you've got loaded into your DAW. The tempo lock will sync up the reverb. Will sync up the reverb to link up to the beats in the track. So as you can see, you've got 1 bar, half a bar, half a bar triplet, quarter bar, things like that. So you can affect that for the modulation, and as well, we've added in the tempo lock for the pre-delay option. So now with the pre-delay, you can change the pre-delay via the note divisions. So same thing again, eighth, quarter note, full bar. You can either use the slider, which locks in to each division, or you can click the dialog button at the bottom, which opens up a drop-down menu. The one other new feature we've added in that's completely new for Paragon St is the mic distance control, and this basically lets you set how far away your source mic is in the room. So the further away will basically increase the room size, or give the impression of a bigger room, and then the closer it is, sort of the more dead the reverb sound is, if you like. So basically I've got a drum track loaded up here. All being well, I'll play the drum track and just mess about with a few of the controls. I've got quite a big reverb on these drums, just to kind of make it as audible as possible, the effects of what's changing. So I'll start playing the track now, and then I'll mess around with a few of these new features. Um, Apologies, I do believe this stream is in mono, so the stereo width control might not be coming through quite as clearly. But as we always say on these streams, and as well as we advertise at NUGEN, you are welcome to try a 15-day free trial of any of our plugins, and this includes Paragon St, which was released last week. I'll just show you a couple more of the panels. If you're familiar with Paragon, essentially more or less the same layout when it comes to the impulse response panel or the IR panel. We've added in a few new test sounds just to give the user a bit more of an option as to what they want to test the reverb out on, things that sit slightly different in the frequency range. You may notice that just the spectrogram is visible now. So in the original version of Paragon, you'll have the spectrogram and the frequency modifier. But now we've added in this button where you can flick between the two. All the same controls and functions are there as previously in Paragon. And then with the I/O panel, one little thing we've added to the I/O panel with the pre-delay is you can now affect the pre-delay via the tempo sync or tempo lock for each individual channel as well, just giving you that little bit more editability and customization for your reverbs. Like I said, if you missed the webinar we did last Thursday, this may be going online over the next few weeks, but as I previously mentioned, if you want to have a go of Paragon St and be able to test it out for yourself, then please feel free to download a free trial. I'll just put the link there for you if I can get my left and right. So it's nugenaudio.com/Paragon St, and you'll find the 15-day free trial there. So that's been the main thing that's been happening here at NUGEN over the past few months, really, and then building up to the big release that we did. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Feel free to leave some feedback in the comments or get in touch. Let's have a little talk about what's happening in the audio wider world. As I'm sure you've seen, there's been some interesting developments. We've spoken a little bit about Spotify and Apple, as well as some other streaming services that have recently sort of been exploring into the compatibility of Dolby Atmos and surround. And I sort of wanted to bring two things together with this because they've also had some new developments where they're essentially announcing DJ mixes, which will now feature on Spotify and Apple Music, I believe. I'm not too sure about Amazon Music or other services, but these are recent announcements that Spotify and Apple have made, which essentially, like you used to be able to do with SoundCloud, or still could, you can do with SoundCloud and other long-form sort of streaming services, is you can upload entire mixes now to the streaming services of Spotify and Apple, which kind of made me ask the question: could this open up the opportunity for Dolby Atmos compatible DJ mixes? Because if the streaming services are exploring that path in terms of the audio formats, then is it something that could allow? I believe DJ mixes, in terms of Dolby Atmos, you'd have to go to like a sort of a live show with a special speaker setup or some sort of like installation where they have the compatibility to do that. But it could be an interesting thing to happen down the road, basically where you're able to listen to DJ mixes via, that object-based surround arrangement with Dolby Atmos. Could be a very interesting way of allowing DJs to mix in tracks and also playing out their mixes via this whole new surround system. You could well be hearing some new interesting mixes where when you're listening in your headphones, and it just could open up a whole new world basically of how you could mix two tracks together or even more if you had the option to use Dolby Atmos. Rather than just a simple stereo setup. I thought that was a good point to raise. That was something that was quite interesting. That jumped out at me. Sorry. Elsewhere, sort of things of note that have jumped out at me in the audio technology world. Something that I've kind of been interested in myself, and I'm sure a few of you guys, if you're like amateur sort of beat makers and things like that, you may have seen that Roland are announcing their brand new sampling workstation, the SP404 Mark II. If any of you are familiar, or if indeed you're unfamiliar with the original SP404, it was an extremely popular piece of kit for hip hop beat making, sampling. It essentially made the ability to sort of easily slice up audio, speed up, slow down, pitch shift. It was a really intuitive workstation to allow you to do that. A lot of sort of popular and successful hip hop producers, people like Ninth Wonder, I know have used the original model for years, and the new Mark II workstation, which I believe is getting a premiere tomorrow on the Roland YouTube channel. So if you guys want to check it out, I believe it's 8 a.m. British summertime. So I'm not quite. It might be in the middle of the night if you're in the States, or it could be later in the day if you're over in Asia and Australia. But it's they're doing a full announcement tomorrow via their YouTube channel, which will be streamed live. And there are a few features they've announced already. Is that it's coming with a brand new OLED screen, as I'm sure a lot of plugins, not a lot of sort of hardware is starting to incorporate. And the one feature that seems to be getting a few people excited is a cassette simulator effect that comes built in, which I think allows for a sort of tape effect on your samples and on your drum sounds that give it that sort of like very classic hip hop sound. Like I'm sure you like the kind of Jay Dilla kind of sound that he's used on his samples and his beats before. So for me, that's a big bit of news. I'll be keeping my eye out on that. So yeah, if you guys are interested in the new SP404 Mark II, then check out the Roland YouTube channel tomorrow. Elsewhere, in a similar bit of news, a company called Martinic are releasing what they are called the AX73, which is essentially a Akai AX73 emulation. If you don't know what Akai AX73 was, it was a analog polysynth in the 80s that was kind of often described as an overlooked synth. It wasn't as particularly as popular as other synthesizers like the DX7, but still come with them sort of classic 80s sounds that also seem to be having a bit of a renaissance today. It's what they describe as the Martinic circuitry emulation, where you can play and manipulate 4 oscillators layered over 2 synths. Comes with like built-in modulation and 4 LFOs per layer as well. So feel free to I'd keep my eye out for that if it's something that interests you. I know I'm certainly interested in sort of analog synths, and I'm always happy when a sort of a more cost affordable emulation comes along. So I'll be checking it out, and it may also be something that interests you as well. So yeah, that's the things that I've seen in the audio news that have sort of jumped out at me over the past couple of weeks. There may be things that I've missed that you guys are into. Feel free to pop it in the comments, and I'll take a look at them. So if you've seen this stream before, I'm going to kind of keep it short and concise, but we're going to basically, the last section we take a look at is what we call our deeper look, which is at the minute we're talking about our mastering for the internet blog series. You can find this on our website, nugenaudio.com/mastering for the internet, and this came out in 2018, but we're just going to have a little talk about it in this stream. The last time, if you joined us for the last one, we touched upon. Well, firstly, we touched upon the loudness wars that were particularly sort of prevalent in the noughties, up to like 2012. And then following on from that, the introduction of streaming services. And then the previous stream that we did back in September essentially touched upon. It was more of a focus on the streaming platforms themselves, streaming services, and the introduction of loudness normalization, and how it's taken over, from previous years where the loudness wars were kind of a race to get this biggest and loudest sounding record. So basically what we're going to talk about is the difference between your original mixdown and these codecs that have been introduced through streaming services. So your mixdown will be most likely in a WAV format, but the chances of people hearing that WAV format are quite slim. If they're listening on like Spotify or Apple Music, they're going to be listening a AAC or Ogg Vorbis reproduction of your WAV file, and that sort of some of the problems that come along with this is like codecs don't necessarily deal well with sort of hot audio, if you like. It can sort of lead to distortion that may not have been originally present on the original master. The trouble basically with this is where the issue lies is that in the original analog waveform it would continue to play smoothly, but in the reconstructed waveform through the codecs, the reconstructed waveform can be higher than the sample measurements either side. Hence this intersample peak term that we use, and this essentially just results in distortion as the waveform is incorrectly reconstructed. And I guess the way to avoid this, the way to avoid codec distortion with intersample peak measurements, is by measurements and limiting. We do have ISL, that is one of our plugins that helps you with this. I would be able to give a little demonstration of it, but my logic doesn't seem to be working. So what I would suggest, guys, if you guys want to take a more of a deeper look into this, obviously you're welcome to try the free trial. We do have an overview of ISL on our learning section that can give you some assistance if you need a bit of a helping hand with your way around the interface and stuff. As well, MasterCheck's a great plugin that can help you anticipate codec distortion, and you're able to hear it pre-mixed down with the likes of the AAC and Ogg Vorbis codecs. These are two great plugins that can help you. Obviously, the harder you push a traditional sample peak limiter, the more likely you are to introduce intersample peaks. And you won't necessarily hear the problem until you export the mix. So that's where things like MasterCheck allows you to sort of anticipate this, audition this, gain back a bit of control. If you don't want to go through the long-winded process of exporting an entire project, encoding it and analysing the resulting file, then MasterCheck is a spot-on plugin for helping you anticipate this within your DAW in real time. Gives you visual representation and audible representation of the audio, ensuring your work is preserved, and so you don't get any nasty surprises once you've already completed your mix down. I'll just show, because I'm not able to give you a quick demo on this, unfortunately, but I will just show you that if you're interested in this, that you can get both ISL and MasterCheck in our modern mastering bundle, along with Visualizer, which is a great tool for getting a visual representation of the audio. So it comes with ISL ST, sorry, I do apologise, which is the stereo version of ISL. but using for music production, that is more than ideal. So if you guys want to check this out, this is the page to head to, the Modern Mastering Bundle, where you can, if you click on the try button next to the subscribe and buy now buttons, then this is where you can try your 15-day trial. So feel free to go and check that out. That's all I've got time for today, guys. Thank you very much for joining in. Thanks for giving us the time of your evening, or afternoon, or morning, and we'll be doing another one of these in November, most likely on the first Tuesday of the month. So feel free to come and check that out. Hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks very much for watching. Hope you have a nice evening.